Okay, we're working with addition, subtraction with unlike denominators. Let's take the first problem. So we've got 2 over x plus 1 plus 3 over x minus 1. Well, look at them. Do x plus 1 and x minus 1 have anything in common? No. So our first thing you're going to find is the lowest common denominator is going to be the sum of x plus 1 times the sum of x minus 1. So you take your first fraction, 2, over x plus 1. Anytime there's more than one term, it's much easier to just put in parentheses to start with. Plus, and what are we going to multiply? What are we going to have to multiply it by to get our denominator of x plus 1 times x minus 1? Well, it already has the x plus 1. The only thing missing is the x minus 1. So if we multiply our denominator by that, that's what we'll get. But in order to keep it an equivalent fraction, whatever you multiply it by, the numerator has to be the same as the denominator. That way you're making it an equivalent fraction. So this becomes 2 times x minus 1. Now we need to do the same thing for the other part of this. So we've got 3 over x minus 1. What do we need to multiply that by to get our common denominator of x plus 1 times x minus 1? Well, we have the x minus 1. What's missing is the x plus 1. Whatever you do to the denominator, you have to do to the numerator to keep it the same. So it becomes 3 times the sum of x plus 1. So now that they have the same denominator, let's just put that as our denominator, x plus 1, x minus 1, and then we take our two numerators, our 2 times x minus 1, plus, back to our original equation, 3 times x plus 1. And that's it. That's as simplified as it can get. And that's how you need to do it with unlike denominators. Let's go on to something a little tougher. Looking at our next problem, we see that we have different denominators, but anytime you have terms you need to look at first, can you factor anything out? Then go back to the number of terms. If there's 2 terms, is it a difference of squares? Is there 3 terms? Is it factorable? So let's take our first one now. So we've got 4 over x squared minus 4. You guys should remember that's a difference of squares. So that is x plus 2 times x minus 2. Plus, I've got 3 over x minus 2. An easy way to do this is to think about, find your greatest common factor, and then it becomes your GCF times all the rest. So now let's go. Let me switch screens here. So we're going to find our 2 terms are x plus 2 and x minus 2 for one fraction. And then the other one is x minus 2. So what you want to do is you want to find the greatest common factor. If you are doing numbers, you do a factor tree and find what they both have in common. What these both have in common is x minus 2. So with that, to find your lowest common denominator, remember it's GCF times all the rest. So our GCF is x minus 2, right? And the only thing missing from this is from over here are x plus 2. So our lowest common denominator is x minus 2 times the sum of x plus 2. So going back to our original one, look what we have here. Going to leave that other side up so that you're reminded. So our first one has our lowest common denominator. So just bring that down. Plus we've got 3 over x minus 2. So what's missing? Well, what's missing is our x plus 2. So you're going to multiply that by your numerator and your denominator. So let's rewrite it. We've got 4 over x plus 2 times x minus 2 plus, this becomes 3 times x plus 2 over the same denominator, x plus 2 times x minus 2. Simplifying that, combine it together, it becomes 4 plus 3, x plus 2 over the sum of x plus 2 times x minus 2. And don't simplify that denominator back to x squared minus 4. Leave it right like that. Let's go on to solving rational equations. The example is 2/5 plus 1/10 equals 1 over t. Well, the easiest way, if you have a variable in your fraction, is have two fractions that are equal to each other, and that way you can cross multiply and solve. But we've got 2/5 plus 1/10, so let's combine those first. So let's take our two fractions, line it up like this, and we know we may need to do a factor tree, but our lowest common denominator is going to be 10, isn't it? So 5 times what will give me 10? Look at your denominators first. 5 times 2. Since it's going to be an equivalent fraction, whatever I do to the numerator, I have to do to the denominator, I have to do the numerator, and vice versa. So 2 times 2 is 4. So 10, well, 10 is already, so it's just 1 times 1, which is 1/10. So if I add them together, that gives me 5/10. So now let's go back to our equation. So now I have, and I can reduce 5/10 to 1/2, can't I? So I've got 1/2 is equal to 1 over t. Just like proportions that you did before, all you're doing now is cross multiplying. So that is 1t is equal to 2. We don't need the 1t. T is just equal to 2. Let's take some harder ones. I've got y plus 4 over y is equal to 4. Well, I said with it, it's easier to get everything into fractions, but I've only got one fraction here. So the easiest way to solve this is to clear it of all fractions. Now, the easiest way to do that is just to find your lowest common denominator and multiply the whole equation by it. So since y is our only denominator, let's multiply everything by y. So we know that y times y, and distribute it, is equal to y squared. And if I multiply that, that becomes 4y over y, or the y's can just cross cancel, and that will give you 4 is equal to 4y. Well, what are you going to do now? You want everything on one side of the equal sign. So let's subtract 4y from both sides. Let's put it where it would belong, because remember we want descending order. So that's y squared minus 4y plus 4 is equal to 0. Am I done? No. Whenever you have it like that, you have to factor it out. It starts with y squared, so I know each parenthesis is going to start with a y, isn't it? So now I'm going to need two numbers that multiply to positive 4 and add to negative 4. Well, looking at that, I know the only way to get a positive 4 is either both numbers have to be positive or both have to be negative. Well, it's going to have to be negative, and if it's negative 2 times negative 2, that's going to equal negative 4. Now, we're not done yet. Remember, we have to set each one equal to 0, but since they're the same, you only have to do it once. So y minus 2 is equal to 0. Solve for y, and your answer is y is equal to 2. Let's do one more of those, just to make sure that you've got this down. So I've got t minus t over 3 is equal to negative 2. Well, it's not two fractions. In fact, there's only one term in there with a fraction. So if you remember, the easiest way to do this is to clear the equation of all fractions. The way you do that is multiplying the whole equation by that one denominator. And I'm going to break this out a little. I'm going to multiply, and I'm going to do this a little different just to show you how this works. You could do it all at once, or you could do it by every one individually. So this becomes 3t, and then if you look, this 3 and that 3 cross cancel, don't they? So that will give us minus t is equal to negative 2 times 3 is 6. Once again, combine your like terms. So what is 3t minus t? That's 2t equals negative 6. Now you're going to say on the other one, wait a minute, we factored it out. How come we're not doing that on this one? The reason is on the other one, it was x squared. Whenever you have your answer to the second power, that way you know you're going to factor it out. We don't have anything to the second power here, so we can easily solve for t. We don't want 2t, we just want t, so divide both sides by 2. So t is going to equal negative 3. Now, I'm going to be gone tomorrow, so use this, look at your worksheets, everything else, and study for the test, and good luck all.